Good morning, brothers and sisters. Happy Sunday and welcome to our worship service. Today our service is coming from our Scottish community. My name is Eric Williamson and I will be your MC. I hope everyone has been enjoying this beautiful sunshine, is feeling energized and is ready to welcome God, our Heavenly Parents, into our lives. You may be one of our regular viewers, you may be viewing this for the very first time, you may even be an international viewer. My hope for you today is that you can feel connected and Heavenly Parent can give you a personal message. With that being said, let's welcome Heavenly Parents to our service. Please join me in prayer. Good morning, Heavenly Parents. Thank you for this day that we can start with you and we can be guided and protected by you. We'd like to welcome you into this service, joining our brothers and sisters all across the world, and we want to welcome you into our hearts. We pray very much for our brothers and sisters, our friends and family and loved ones who especially need your support and guidance during this time. We pray that they can feel your love, they can feel your protection, and they can also feel our positive energy that we are radiating out to them. We pray especially during this time that we can be supportive of one another, we can work together, and we can be open to receiving your guidance and your protection. I pray today that you may talk through all of our speakers and we can receive your message through song, through prayer, and through the words that you're about to give to us. Thank you, Heavenly Parents, and I pray and report this in my name, Eric Williamson, and in the name of everyone listening, adieu. Thank you. So, Heavenly Parents has officially been welcomed. He's with you right now, maybe in your living room, in your kitchen, in your bedroom, wherever you may be, Heavenly Parents is now with us. So let's get started.
One thing I desire, only this I seek, just to dwell here forever. This will be my posture, laying at your feet. Oh, just to dwell here forever.
Dearest Father, closest friend, most beautiful, most beautiful. Dearest Mother, closest friend, most beautiful, most beautiful. More than I desire, this is what I see. Just to dwell forever. This will be my posture, laying at your feet. Oh, just to dwell forever. Dearest Father,
never leave you anymore, for I have found in your bright eyes a river of love, a heart of gold, a peaceful mind, a hand to hold. And what will I do with this precious gift? Shall I embrace it to myself? Oh no, I can't. I would lose it, sure. It must be given if it's to endure. And how will I use this precious gold? How will I share this wordless joy? I'll greet home back with a loving heart. I'll speak the truth with a clear voice, and together we'll build a world that's fit for kings and fit for peace. We'll raise them up to rule the land and place the million in your I'll never leave you anymore, for I have found in your bright eyes a river of love, a heart of gold, a peaceful mind, a hand to hold.
The Prince Who Thought He Was a Rooster. Once there was a prince who thought he was a rooster. He spent his days sitting naked under a table in his room, refusing to eat anything except birdseed. The king and the queen were distraught. They were beside themselves with worry and dismay. "What shall we do?" they kept asking each other. "Where did we go wrong? What has happened to our darling boy? He used to be a normal child, but now he won't listen to anything we say. He doesn't eat. He doesn't speak. He takes no notice of us. What can we do to help him?" Then the queen had an idea. "I know," she said. "I'll invite his best friend over to visit." The friend came. He poked his head under the table where the prince was hiding and called, "Hey, come on, let's go and play outside." But the prince refused to even look at him. Then the king tried. He went to visit the prince's favorite tutor and asked him to come to the palace and try to reason with the boy. Surely this man would convince his son to come out. The tutor listened carefully to what the king had to say. He took the prince's favourite books with him when he went to see him. "Come, let's read together," he coaxed. "I'll read you your favourite stories. You used to enjoy them so much." But the prince ignored him completely. By now, the king and queen were frantic. They instructed their chef to bake the prince's favourite cake. They brought it in from the kitchen, fresh from the oven, and smelling of chocolate. They put it on the floor next to their son, hoping he would be tempted by the sweet smell. But the prince just ignored it, and continued to peck away at the bird seed scattered on the floor. He then turned his head to one side. "Cockle-doodle-doo!" he cried. "He's getting worse, not better," moaned his father sadly. "What should we do?" The king and queen sat together for a while. They thought long and hard, and finally the queen said, "Someone must be able to help. Let us put out a declaration across the kingdom, offering a reward to anyone who can cure our son." Many people came, doctors and wizards and magicians. All of them tried, and all of them failed. The prince thought he was a rooster, and that was that. Then, one day, a strange man arrived at the palace. He knocked at the palace gates and asked to see the king and the queen. He was tall and thin, and his clothes were old and ragged. He looked as if he had travelled a long way. "I have heard about the prince," he said, "and I think I know what the problem is. I will need to come and stay with you for a week. I believe I can cure him, but it will take time." "Are you a doctor?" asked the king. "A wizard?" inquired the queen. "No," answered the stranger, "but I know what to do to help your son. My name is Ezra, and you must trust me." The king and the queen were still worried. How could this man cure their son, when so many wise and experienced doctors had failed? "What will this stranger do to help our precious boy?" the queen asked her husband. "I don't know," answered the king slowly, "but I think we can trust him. His name is Ezra, which means help in Hebrew, and he has kind eyes. He knows what he is doing, and what do we have to lose? We must let him try." So the king and queen welcomed Ezra to the palace and introduced him to the prince. As soon as he was inside the room, Ezra took off all his clothes, crawled under the table next to the prince, and began to peck at the floor. The prince was taken aback. He looked up from where he was crouching and spoke for the first time in months. "Who are you?" he asked. "And why are you here?" Ezra was pleased. He could see that his plan was already beginning to work. "I am a rooster too," he replied. The prince smiled at him, the first time he had done so in months, and Ezra smiled back. The two of them sat naked under the table together, pecking at the corn and shouting "Cock-a-doodle-doo!" After 3 days of this, they had become great friends. On the fourth day, Ezra crawled out from under the table and put his clothes back on. "What are you doing?" protested the prince. "You are a rooster like me, and roosters do not wear clothes. Come back here and take them off." Ezra took no notice, and just went on getting dressed. With his clothes on again, he crawled back under the table. "Even though I am a rooster," Ezra told the prince, "I prefer to wear clothes. That way, I don't feel so cold as I sit on the floor. You can do whatever you like, but as for me, this rooster is more comfortable in clothes." The prince thought about this for a while, and then, slowly and silently, he crawled out from under the table and put on his own clothes. Afterwards, the two of them continued to peck at the bird seed and lift their heads from time to time to cry out, "Cockle-doodle-doo!" The only difference was that now they were both dressed. The next morning, when they woke up, the prince began pecking away at the bird seed on the floor, as he did every morning. This morning, though, Ezra crawled out from under the table and went to fetch the breakfast tray that the palace servants had left outside the door, as they did every morning, in case the prince decided to stop being a rooster. Ezra put some food on a plate, and without a word, he brought it back under the table, where he began to eat it.
"What are you doing?" cried the prince. "Roosters eat bird seed, not scrambled eggs and toast. That is people food, and you are a rooster. Put it back."
Ezra took no notice. The eggs were delicious, just as he liked them, and he was hungry after eating bird seed for 4 days. He went on eating calmly, a piece of toast in one hand, a forkful of eggs in the other. The prince glared at him, but Ezra just ignored him. When he had finished, he explained,
"I am a rooster, just like you. But roosters are free to eat whatever food they like. If you prefer the taste of bird seed, then by all means continue to eat bird seed. But I like eggs and toast, and all sorts of other foods. So from now on, I plan to eat whatever is on the tray outside the door."
the prince thought about what Ezra had said, and then, slowly, he wandered over to the tray to see what was left. He took some eggs, a piece of toast, and even poured himself a cup of coffee. He brought them back under the table and had his first normal breakfast in months. Licking his lips and enjoying the taste of the food, he looked at Ezra and smiled. The prince and Ezra spent the rest of the day shouting "Cockle-doodle-doo!" as usual from under the table. But whenever a meal arrived, they crawled out from under the table and shared whatever food had arrived on the tray outside the door. The next morning, they crawled out from under the table to get their breakfast. This time, however, instead of bringing it back under the table to eat, Ezra sat on a chair at the table. The prince watched him suspiciously. What was going on now? Then, after he had eaten, Ezra began to walk around the room, instead of crouching under the table like a rooster.
"What are you doing now?" the prince asked. "How can you be a rooster if you eat your meals at the table and walk upright like a man?" "Just because I am a rooster doesn't mean I cannot sit in a place that is comfortable to me, or move around in a way that feels right," Ezra responded calmly. "I prefer to sit on a chair and to walk upright. Is there any reason why a rooster cannot do that if he prefers it?"
The prince thought for some time, giving this question his full attention. Then, slowly, he mumbled,
"I suppose not."
and he too sat down at the table to eat his breakfast. That day, instead of spending his time yelling "Cockle-doodle-doo," Ezra turned to the prince and asked,
"The Sabbath begins this evening. How do you think we should celebrate it? Even though I am a rooster, I prefer to spend my Sabbath praying to God, sharing a fine meal, studying the words of the Torah, and being with my family. Would you like to join me?"
There was a long silence while the prince thought about what Ezra had said. Then, quietly, he began to cry.
"It has been so long since I celebrated the Sabbath," he said. "I think I have forgotten how. And it has been so long since I was with my family. I am not sure if they will accept me back, especially seeing that I am still a rooster."
Ezra put his arms around the prince to comfort him.
"Your family will welcome you back with open arms. They will accept you for who you are. And I'm sure it will take you no time at all to remember the joy of the Sabbath and how to celebrate it. Let's ask your parents if they will join us, and we can celebrate it together."
So Ezra and the prince sent an invitation to the king and the queen to come to Sabbath dinner in the prince's room. The week was over, but the king and queen were not sure what they would find when they opened the prince's door. They wondered if Ezra had succeeded in convincing the prince to come out from under the table. The queen opened the door just a crack at first.
"Oh my!"
she exclaimed when she saw her son dressed for the Sabbath and sitting at the table set with a sumptuous meal. When he saw his mother, the prince came across the room, opened the door wide, walked over to his parents and hugged them. "This is remarkable!" the king exclaimed as he hugged his son in return. "How did you manage it?" he asked, turning to Ezra.
"Nothing has changed," answered Ezra. "Your son is your son. He always has been and always will be. He's still the same on the inside. The only thing that is different is the way he behaves. All I have taught him is that God gives human beings the ability to make choices. No matter how we feel on the inside, we can choose to behave better than we feel. The prince feels he is a rooster, but even a rooster can behave like a human being if he so chooses. And if that is the case, then I expect that a human being can behave like an angel if only he tries."
With that, Ezra disappeared, leaving behind the reward that should have been his. The king and queen realized that he had not been an ordinary man at all, but a messenger from God. The king thought about what Ezra had told him about behavior and choice. He realized that their visitor meant him to listen too, and to think about the choices he was making. And from then on, the king began to rule his country in a different way. Instead of insisting that his subjects come to the palace to meet him, he went out to their homes to try and understand their problems and their needs. He became known as the wisest king who ever ruled. Whenever he heard a rooster cry cockle-doodle-doo, he would raise his eyes to heaven and give thanks for the lesson that Ezra had taught him when he spent a week with the prince who thought he was a rooster.
Hello, brothers and sisters, and welcome to this week's edition of the Europe and Middle East Weekly News. How are you doing? Are you feeling close to your family members? Are you close to the members of your national and international community? During this time of the pandemic, when there are many restrictions in place, there are many challenges, but also many opportunities. Firstly, Tremother has received the various cards and letters sent by post from the brothers and sisters in our region. The staff in Korea have translated every single letter. Tremother is reading our letters, and she cares very deeply about every single one of us. Do you feel her love for you? What are you going to say in your next letter to Tremother? The coronavirus restrictions are being relaxed in some countries, meaning that we can migrate back from online meetings to IRL meetings in real life. In the Austrian city of Linz, the City Hall recently hosted an exhibition commemorating True Father's centenary. There is a new Facebook page that can help us with our outreach efforts. Please visit facebook.com/The Legacy of Love. And when you're there, please like, follow, and share. This Facebook page can be a useful tool in our toolbox of options for introducing true parents to our friends and associates. Another tool in that toolbox is the Chosen docu-series, which has been hosted by our American community. Taking place over 3 weeks, this series features members telling their stories, testifying to who true parents are. It was originally created to help Christian ministers get to know true parents more deeply. But you know what? I don't think I know true parents well enough, and I need to get to know them better. So this Chosen series can help all of us get to know true parents more deeply. Our community in the UK last week said farewell to 2 amazing brothers. Mr. Henry Masters passed away at the age of 93. And then very suddenly on Monday, Mr. Andy Johnson passed away at the age of 66. Just a few weeks before his passing, Andy had become a grandfather for the first time. And just a week before his passing, he was made the mayor of his local town, Devizes. Please say a prayer for Mr. Henry Masters and Mr. Andy Johnson. If you know their families, please send them a message of condolence. On our UK website, we have details of various fundraising campaigns, including for their families. Please visit um-uk.org if you would like to make a donation. The country Spain is going through a very traumatic experience. The government recently announced a 10-day official period of mourning for the 30,000 people who have passed away and the many others who are also suffering. Our peace embassy in Madrid, Espacio Ronda, responded to this by creating an art display combining the Japanese tradition of Shenbazuru with a display showing cranes flying from white pebbles, symbolizing hope that we can transcend this suffering. In Japan, when somebody is sick or you want a desire fulfilled, friends and relatives fold 1,000 cranes as an offering to heaven. Our Japanese members folded 1,000 cranes, and the local Spanish members helped to create the display. It has made a beautiful impact. Many people are walking past the window, taking photographs of the display, and reading the message that has been written next to it. Today I would like to share a message based on a reading from True Father's autobiography as a peace-loving global citizen. This is on page 138. I enjoy listening to other people talk about themselves. When people open up to me and talk about themselves, I don't even realize the passing of time. I listen to them for 10, even 20 hours. People who want to talk have a sense of urgency. They are looking for solutions to their problems. So I feel that I need to listen to them with my full dedication. That is the way to love their life and repay the debt that I owe for my life. The most important thing is to think of life as precious. In the same way that I listened with sincerity to what others had to say, I also shared with them my sincere heart with fervour, and I would pray for them in tears. So the key message which I would like to share with you today is to really listen. I reflected on this idea of how we all want to be understood and also to understand others. And just as we would like to be understood, that is how we should make effort to understand others. So when we're listening to people, really pay attention to what they're saying. Be friendly. Be interested in how other people feel. Ask them questions about how they feel and what they're thinking, and be patient and listen to what they say. when they're talking, don't think about what you want to say next. Don't go off on a tangent about a story that you want to share, but really listen to how they're feeling through what they're saying. If you can spend some time listening to somebody as they share with you, and you give them the chance to feel understood by you, they will feel loved by you and loved by God. And I'm sure that will also give you the opportunity for you to share your heart so that they will be able to listen to you as well. Have a blessed and joyful week.
So, brothers and sisters, we have now come to our main event. I hope everyone is sitting comfortably, attentive, and ready to listen. I would now like to introduce Oliver Lane, who's from our Scottish community and will be sharing our main message for the day. Enjoy.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining us on this sunny Sunday morning. My name is Oliver Lane, and I am the chair and acting pastor of Heavenly Parents Holy Community of FFWPU Scotland. I'm speaking to you from the old fishing town of Arbroath, which is situated on the northeast coast of Scotland, and we're actually nearer, as the crow flies anyway, to Norway than to London. We are right beside the North Sea, and there are many beautiful views. Conchita, my wife, and I often marvel at God's delicate artistry and are moved by the birds, their songs and cries, the beautiful wildflowers, the sparkling sea, and the majestic sky. But I'm very aware that there are many parts of the world that are not so peaceful and beautiful. My message today is, let us accomplish. By that I mean, let us be the doers of the word. Let us act. Let us build a world that God, our Heavenly Parent, would be proud of. In James, in the New Testament, he says, "What good is it, my brothers, if someone says he has faith but does not have works? Can that faith save him? If a brother or sister is poorly clothed and lacking in daily food, and one of you says to them, 'Go in peace, be warmed and filled,' without giving them the things needed for the body, what good is that? So also by faith itself, if it does not have works, is dead. But someone will say, 'You have faith and I have works. Show me your faith apart from your works, and I will show you my faith by my works.'" This time of the COVID virus is unique, and I grieve for all who have died and are sick and are still dying, and the families that have lost ones and were unable to see them before they passed or even attend a funeral. And our community has similarly lost a number of our good and faithful friends recently. But I think we should also consider there are other viruses in our world today also. Well, we could perhaps consider them similar to a virus that attack us and debilitate us. We've got the viruses of hunger, war, trafficking of women and children, slavery, nuclear weapons, violence, and many other crimes against humanity. The world has had to stop and accept the way that it has been working just isn't good enough. And we, I think, now have to really think, what is truly God's vision of the world? We have the means and resources to totally change the world if we really desire to make it happen. Instead of armies of soldiers and nuclear weapons, maybe we should have armies of rebuilders, peacemakers, and protectors of the sick and innocent. The only way we can do this is if we unite with the power, love, and humanity to be found in all faiths and religious teachings. The Muslim world has just completed their annual period of prayer, fasting, and devotions, Ramadan, and we salute their life of faith and good works. Be mindful of your duty and do good works, and again be mindful of your duty and believe, and once again be mindful of your duty and do right. God loves the doers of good. As unificationists, recently renamed as the Heavenly Parents Holy Community, we try not to be motivated by fame or praise or reward, but by true love for our Creator and the example of our true parents, Father and Mother Moon. Well, what do we mean by this term? Well, for example, the Pope is known as the Holy Father, the spiritual guide and inspiration for millions. And we see Father and Mother Moon as our spiritual parents, our true parents, that are the champions of the living God, our heavenly parent, and our guides to totally living and being with God in our lives. They have given their all and more to move the world towards God, our heavenly parent. This is an example of Father Moon's attitude of love and of his compassion for others. And please bear in mind, Japan had just occupied and brutally ruled Korea for 40 years. I have loved God, I have loved the world, and I have loved humankind. Right after the liberation of Korea from Japan, I loved even the enemies who had tried to have me executed as a criminal. I even sold my suit, even my undergarments, and gave the money to one of these men when his son was starving. Then I lived for 2 weeks with nothing. I could not even go outside because I had nothing proper to wear. I did not do this from a calculating motivation. I did it from my genuine heart. So you may well ask, what can I accomplish? For unificationists, Heavenly Parents Holy Community, the message we receive from Mother Moon is quite clear. Make the world a more heavenly community. Make the world one human family with our Creator, our Heavenly Parent, as our guide, inspiration, and our heart of hearts. True Mother, in her speech on May the 8th, speaks quite clearly. So True Mother is simple and unequivocal. Testifying to Heavenly Parent and true parents should be our major aim, our target for accomplishment, and our way forward. I'm sure if we go in this direction, we shall find God, our Heavenly Parent, and true parents, and indeed also millions of people waiting to help us. Tomorrow I will be 70. A number of our community members have ascended recently, and we pay respect to them and the many good people who are suddenly no longer with us. I met our Heavenly Parents Holy Community in Edinburgh in 1972. I was inspired to give up my studies and join full time, and despite many good experiences, I left in 1976, went my own way, and tried in some ways to ignore my conscience and forget about God. But I want to give you a story, an experience of mine from that time. When I decided to leave my course in hospitality, I had to go and tell this to one of the senior lecturers at the college. And I went to his office and I said, well, I'm sorry, but I'm leaving my course. I want to been inspired by a new religious movement. It's doing very good work in the world, and I'm sorry, but I'm leaving. It was founded in South Korea in 1960. And he said, "Oh, really? South Korea?" He said, "I was there. I was," he said, "I was a member of the United Nations forces. And we were doing work. I was supervising civilians at the dockside, and we were unloading cargo. They were unloading, I was supervising it. Anyway, I was irritable. I was in a bad mood. I don't know why I was so bad-tempered, but I swore at one of the civilians, and he came up to me quite calmly and said, "Do you call yourself a Christian?" And I was really very shocked and somehow ashamed of what I'd done. This was him telling me. And he said, really from that time on, I tried to live a Christian life. And so I don't know who it was that spoke to him. Who can know? But what was true is that 6 words transformed his life, inspired him to change and be a better person. So you never know. We never know what words can one, change people's lives, and also perhaps if we haven't met them, what kind of experiences with God and they have gone through. So anyway, fast forward to just now. After many things in 2011, I was able to really consider and think about getting married again, and eventually met my wife Conchita in 2012, and we attended a blessing ceremony in Korea in 2013, and that was more or less 40 years after first meeting the Heavenly Parents Holy Community, Unification Church as it was at that time. But we've both been able to make a fresh start. Conchita has 2 daughters. I have 2 daughters, and I have also 4 grandchildren. So my father used to say, tomorrow never comes. Because what? Because tomorrow becomes today. And today is always the best time for action. So with God, new beginnings are always possible, and the time is always right for reaching out to people and accomplishing heavenly results. Before I close, I'd ask you to consider visiting the Legacy of Love, recently launched on Facebook, to like or share if you can. I'm sure it's very interesting and gives you an idea of how much Father and Mother Moon accomplished in their lives and their attitude and example. So to recap today, I would say, let us accomplish heavenly goals, follow the path of true love. It's never too late for someone to turn to God, our Heavenly Parent. We don't always know how people have been touched or affected by God in their lives. I wish you a heavenly week with many wonderful experiences. God bless you all. Thank you.
Hello everyone, we'd now like to share with you a few announcements. Yesterday we held our UK Providence meeting, the first since moving online. If you didn't manage to make it, you are able to watch it here on our YouTube channel. As you may know, we lost 2 beloved members of our community very recently. If you are able and would like to support their families at this time, there are GoFundMe pages set up where you can make donations. Please find the links in the video description. Other things happening this week include the ongoing Chosen series, exploring the life of true parents and their impact on the world. If you would like to attend and haven't already, you can sign up at chosen.familyfed.org. As well as this, the new Pastors Association has its first meeting this Tuesday at 3 p.m. Please contact Cecilia or Franklin Fortune for more details.
Good morning, brothers and sisters. So this is Cheong Manabat. I originally come from the Philippines and now currently part of Scottish community for half a year now. And to formally close our Sunday service for today, please join me in a benediction prayer. Good morning, our dearest Heavenly Parents and victorious parents of heaven, earth, and humankind. Thank you for today's message given to us by our elder brother Oliver, that hopefully we could be able to reflect on what kind of relationship do we currently have with you, our dearest Heavenly Parents, or what kind of daily effort should we be doing in order for us to be able to create and strengthen and even deepen our relationship with you, understanding your heart. I hope that with today's message we can also be able to reflect that we should not be a mere spectator of history or as to what is currently happening in the present when our true mother has been working day and night towards advancing in the providence. That I hope that we should be a mover in every way that we can, and that you could be able to be around guiding us all the way through and giving us the guidance, giving us the ideas and what could we be able to do in order to be able to bring back joy and happiness to you, our dearest Heavenly Parents. And that starting for the past few days and onwards, that lockdown eases and that we could be able to meet once again our friends and colleagues. I hope that we could be able to shine your light, shine your joy and your grace and your love through us to these people around us that we could be able to finally meet. And so, thank you so much, Heavenly Parents, for everything and for all the blessings. And this I pray in our couple's name, Yasatoshi Park and Chiamanabat, blessed and shall couple, Achu.
So, brothers and sisters, our worship service is now coming towards an end. I would like to thank you for attending, and I hope that in some way Heavenly Parents has managed to touch your heart. May it have been through song, through prayer, or through the main message. As always, in the description box below this video, you will see a link to all of our announcements. You will also see a link to our Zoom chat room, which is now open for discussion and fellowship. Stay safe, enjoy the sunshine, and we'll see you next week. God bless.